Good evening, world. I'm Will Marsh, your host of The Way We See It with Will and Luke. Today is the 28th of March, I believe. It is Sunday the 28th. I'm Will Marsh, your host, and I am with Luke Smith.
What's going on, guys?
And we have a very special episode for y'all today, which we think has been long overdue, but we are very grateful for this privilege that we have to do this. So I am, I don't want to go any further. I'm about to turn it over to Luke here. But we appreciate you guys hopping on this and check this one out.
Well, I'd like to introduce my good friend, Alan Swain. He's the newly elected Wake County Republican Party chairman. And I would like to just congratulate him on that for a second here and say good job. And I would like to know more about your future, your background and stuff like that. So, I mean, start wherever you want to start, man. Hold on one second. Can you start again?
We lost your audio, Alan, if you can hear us.
I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, thank you guys for hosting this event. My name is Alan Swain. I'm a retired Army colonel. I did 26 years in the uniform. I served 2 tours at the Pentagon. I actually served 2 presidents when I was stationed at the White House. I was initially a field artilleryman in a nuke surety unit stationed in 3rd Infantry Division over in Europe. Subsequently, then went on to flight school, learned to fly Cobra helicopters, and then Apache helicopters. I did command helicopters, Apache helicopters in Europe, and while commander, I took charge of an aviation task force and took them into Bosnia back in the 90s to make peace in the former Yugoslavia.
Wow.
I was fortunate.
So wait, so you, Alan, I hate to interrupt. So you're saying that you were field artillery first, and then you reclassed and working in the White House, the Pentagon, artillery wasn't, and so then you went and flew helicopters after that.
No, what it is when you go artillery, back then you couldn't go straight to flight school because it wasn't an aviation branch and it was a additional skill.
Okay. Wow.
Once you're an artilleryman, you went to combat arms, and then I went to flight school, and then aviation became a branch, separate branch, not just a combat arms aviator. So based on that, I was able to move up through the ranks as an aviation officer and got to command at several levels. And I took my command in Europe into Bosnia back in the mid-90s. But then after I got out, went on to the Joint Chiefs of Staff for my second tour at the Pentagon, then went to the White House, did the War College, what you do when you're a full colonel. And then I decided it was time to hang it up, and I actually took off and helped a couple of guys that were struggling with a new small business. I came in, they had Air Force backgrounds, I was Army, and we started growing government contracting with DOD. Then we moved into the intelligence community, so we started doing work with the DIA, the NSA, Cybercom, and CIA. So then we were doing so well, we started, our revenue was growing exponentially, and then when we got up to about 35 million, we had piqued a bunch of other bigger companies' interest, and they came in and bought us out. So after that, I decided it was time to come down here to North Carolina and just be a grandfather. But after all that occurred, the Democrats took over in 2018, and I had to make a difference. So I wanted to try and protect this state and keep it red. And they said the best way for you to do it is to run for Congress. So I was the District 2 for North Carolina, NC2. I ran as the Republican candidate for Congress. And while I was outnumbered by 100,000 Democrats to Republicans in the majority, I still actually did better than President Trump and Senator Tillis in my district. So I conveyed the right message. I helped pull other people across the line, and my message was strong. So because of that, I thought I would just keep my powder dry. But when I saw the problems we had within Wake GOP and what the future is going to be with the former leaders, now not agreeing to run, I decided it was time for me to step up and try and help fix the back office so we can get ready for 21, 22, and 23, and 24, because let's face it, Wake County is a blue county based on the results of 2020. If you want to keep this state red, and a lot of people don't realize we're really not a red state, we're a purple state. In 2016, we won by 3.5%. Then candidate Trump pulled it out. In 2020, it was 1.3%. So if you don't think we're purple, if you don't think the Democrats have their eyes on the state of North Carolina and turning it blue, this job I just took as the new chairman for Wake GOP is I got to get the back office straight, organized, more professional. If I can do that, I can hopefully move us towards a purple county. If we go purple in Wake County, since we're the largest county in the whole state, 180,000, we're trying to go to 250,000 Republicans, we will make a difference, and we will make North Carolina not purple, but we will make it bright red. And the Democrats will have to leave us alone in 24. But if they think play here, they're coming. And my job in the largest county, in the toughest is to right the ship, make a difference, and move out and take the offense and force the Democrats to go on the defense. So I signed up to do this. My team of Wake Strong is 13 people. We were all elected. We went 13-0 in the election the other night. There were 28 talented candidates that are Republicans in the county. Nothing to say other than they're super volunteers and they're willing to be future leaders of the county. My slate prevailed. All 13 of us won. So now it's our job to move out and do the hard, tough work. We have the right message. We're an America First agenda. We will make a difference. Our number one priority is voter and election integrity. We have the absentee ballot the way it's supposed to be based on our election law. 2 witness, notary, and you get an absentee ballot. Last year, it went to 1 witness, and that's what incidents and concern that we might have had with regard to absentee voter integrity, election integrity. In addition, a lot of people think we may have gotten back our voter ID, which became passed by the constituents or voters in 2018. The Assembly of North Carolina actually changed the Constitution, giving us voter ID. But it's been fought. So the whole 2020 election, primary and general election, we are not allowed to use voter ID. And they spent over $18 million sending out these blue postcards to every voter saying, you don't need to come in with voter ID. We wasted $18 million of our taxpayer dollars. So we did not have voter ID again for the general election. The key is there's still 2 injunctions out there that are being fought. Now, whether we will have it for 22, I don't know. But my job is to force the issue, if I can, as the voice and face of Wake GOP to make a difference and move forward so that we get voter ID in 22. But I've heard some people that are very neutral about this, and they believe that because of the court cases or the injunctions, unless they get overruled, they probably won't get cleared until 24, which is a sad state. When in 18 we agreed we wanted it as the population of North Carolina, but if it doesn't have 22, we think we'll get it in 24. But
that's a good point, Alan, because there's a lot that can happen in between now and 2024. And so if there's that voter fraud that can happen, in that amount of time, the shenanigans, for a lack of a better word, that could happen or occur, people could get through is scary to think about for the state we live in.
Well, no, it puts us back in the same situation in 22, but at least the absentee ballot will have been cleaned up. Voter ID is critical, but there's even a bigger nemesis than that, and that's HR 1. If you hadn't paid attention with HR 1, it's going to be universal nationwide registration. 16-year-olds being able to be registered for the vote. It's ballot. There's so many things wrong with that bill. And it comes down to 2 senators, and neither one of them is a Democrat. And that's Sinema from the state of Arizona and Joe Manchin from the state of West Virginia. Those 2 will seal the fate, because if this gets out on the Senate floor for debate, and they
Wait, stop.
Hang on just a moment, Alan.
The Senate debate. You said if this gets to the Senate debate.
And then it cut out.
If this gets to the floor of the Senate today,
You're good.
and they do away with the filibuster, which requires 60 senators to agree for it to go to the floor,
Okay.
they lose our whole nation, and no Democrat will ever lose for decades.
Wow.
Now, this will all be challenged in the court system, but the damage will have almost been done. And if you don't know anything about ballot harvesting, it's not only recruiting people to register absentee balloting, but a person can literally be paid by a party to go pick up those absentee ballots. And don't get me wrong, things go wrong when people are collecting other people's ballots.
Yeah, that's scary. I'm glad you know all this, by the way. I mean, you're a very well-informed chair. These were stats that were actually new to me, so I'm really glad that you're sharing it and that we're hearing this. I mean, it's scary to think that's reality, but I guess, we have the right man in charge right now since we're talking about the issue.
I'd say overqualified almost.
Tell me that here, okay? But number one priority for us is voter and election integrity. Second is school choice. We as school choice. If the children can't get into public school, let's give them the money and let them go where they want to, the private school. The Catholic schools have students in the classroom. The private schools, because that's where they get their money. But the teacher associations that are across the board, all the states, in North Carolina with the NCAE is our biggest nemesis, and they're only 17% of the teacher population. We want to try and stop the indoctrination. We don't want this critical race theory being taught to our children. In addition, we don't want the 1619 project. We want to go back to where we were before all this feel-good education started and the indoctrination. In addition to that, we just want our kids back in school. We've lost 15% of the child's education growth over the last 12 to 15 months. And it's going to get worse until we get them back in the classroom. There are increases in social misbehavior by young men and women because they're not being able to associate with their friends. That's probably not just the math, reading, and writing skills.
That's true, yeah. I guess there's a whole social development dynamic that they miss out on as well.
Correct. So, we're all about ending the indoctrination, get the kids in school. Third is public safety. We're all about security, family, businesses, and yourself. In addition to that, we are about the rule of law. We are about law and order, and we are about making sure that in a public safety society, America, we need to understand that law enforcement is there to protect everyone. You look at a lot of the minority communities where they're taking away the law enforcement, they're begging for law enforcement to come back. But because a lot of law enforcement, a lot of the officers are actually resigning or retiring early because they don't want to get into that situation that could turn racial, or anything they do will be questioned. Now, I'm all for body cams. I'm all for releasing them once they've been cleared through some grand jury or whatever the judicial process is. But we need to calm down. When you take a look at what happened on 6th January, yes, that was a tragedy. But even more of a tragedy to me was what happened all last summer when we were burning cities down.
You're right.
Build businesses. There are some of those businesses will never come back. We saw what happened in downtown Raleigh in June of last year.
Yeah.
Ever happened. Ever. And then fourth big pillar, if you want to call it, for our foundation is community and minority outreach. We have to grow the base. We have to go from 180,000 to 250,000. If I can get us to 250,000, it's a lofty goal by November 22 as the WAIT chairman. We'll probably easily by 24, but I'm not going to wait till 24 because I want to compete heavily in 22. I want to take the offense. If I have the money, if I have the numbers, and I have the right candidates, we will educate people like you, Will, who ran for office, people like Mario DiMuccio, people like Ron Smith, who ran for House and Senate. We will make sure you understand what our platform is, and we will make sure that you're the best candidate. And then we will line up events in your Senate district, your House district, your school board district, and make sure we maximize. But we're going to put you in front of some friendly audiences first. We're going to make sure you're the right candidate for that position. And if not, then we're going to tell you, you need to be looking for some other line of work. But it's all volunteer. You volunteer just like I did, just like Mario, just like Ron Smith. That's what it's all about. But if we can educate the individual, work with them on their oration, their speech, that they come across positive and that they're comfortable with it, we then can back them with money, yard signs, palm cards. Here's your treasure. We all want to do this, but there ought to be some support from the back office. So that's my number one issue. Grow my base and find so I can empower and then elect conservative Republicans in office, whether that's at the local level, whether that's at General Assembly, whether that's at the federal level, or even the judges. I want to make sure that they feel like someone was there covering their six, and that's a military term, so covering their back and supporting them.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that, Alan. So I've been a Republican my whole life, and have been to some extent or greater involved in local politics. And you're by far the. I've seen a lot of different chairmen in a lot of different counties over the years, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side. And you by far, I've met a lot of sharp guys, but you on your stats are on point. And I think they. Term I learned in business one time was they said if you can't measure it, then you can't manage it, and you seem to have a very, very good grasp on being able to measure it as far as the fight ahead, the district, the Democrat, just everything, which gives me a lot of confidence in this going forward. So I'm glad we have you.
I would tell you that if you fix the back office, I'm going to bring executive director, someone that understands politics but knows how to manage a back office, got managerial experience running an office. I want to make sure that the trains are arriving and leaving on time. If that person handles the day-to-day back office things, I can then become the face and voice, one vision, one voice for Republicans, four-way GOP, and the Republican Party. If I do that and I do it well, then I will be the spokesperson. I will then encourage other people to help grow our base and join us. We're going to have multiple events. We're going to have all kinds of special type things that are fundraising events that will help us out significantly. If we do this right, I can't pick up my phone now, but let's say I have a phone in my hand. My goal with money is going to be to develop an app. And that app is going to be for Wake GOP. That app's going to be able to I can be able to send a message out to all Republicans who are active within Wake GOP and send them a chairman's message. A precinct level, the lowest level plus the block captains, they should be able to touch every person within their precinct or people they're talking to get a message out about some event, something coming up. A region chair would have all the precincts below him, but he should be able to touch the people within his region. And then I will be able to touch everyone at the GOP, Wake GOP level. But the goal is to figure out how I can get and touch a message and send it to the 180,000, soon to be 250,000.
See,
because
Alan,
when you have messages, you want to make sure you are talking to the people.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think that app, I was personally a region chair in Wake County, and I dealt with the former heads and everything. And that app, I think that would be the best solution to every problem almost that's going on in the back office right now. That would solve all the problems almost all in one. Is getting in contact with people and seeing who's active, inactive, and activating them.
Well, in the Army staff and then on the Joint staff, they had a task.
Can you say that again and scoot a little closer maybe, I guess?
Sorry, you were breaking up on sound for just a second.
It's taskers. In other words, if a requirement comes in over Facebook or Twitter saying, hey, or a phone message is left, well, you have an all-volunteer back office, so a lot of messages don't get conveyed to the right people.
Yeah.
If you set up a tasker system that everything gets logged in and it's handed off to someone on my staff, on my Team Wake Strong, because everyone's Team Wake Strong, but I'm talking about the top 13, and they're given fences to respond back to that. So a grassroots volunteer in the field calls, asks for help. We owe him an answer, or her an answer, showing we're listening to them, and we're going to make sure that whatever their effort is going to be supported out of Wake GOP. So if you bring in an executive director and he handles the back office, and his responsibility is to task out to people who's got to cover and respond with an answer, then you start planning events, community minority outreach, and you go into their enclaves and you show up as the Wake chairman or the first vice chairman. Those kinds of voices will now resonate, and then we will then reciprocate, invite them to our Republican events, and hopefully we will convert them if they're UNAs, or some of them won't even be registered. They can say, you know what, you guys are having a good time. Whether it's a beach music festival, a golf tournament, bowling, just any type of an outreach event that you're going to have. We're talking casino night, we're talking raffles, those kinds of events, a big gala. We want to do whatever it's going to take to show, wow, what are those guys over there? They're all laughing and having a great time. Oh, that's Republicans. Let's go over and see if we can join them. You want them to feel like they can be a part of your family. We're going to be the party of the Big Tent, because we're going to bring in everyone.
Hey, casino night sounds fun. Send me that invite.
Yeah. Not a problem. Not a problem.
Hey,
all I can tell
it's going to be, go ahead.
It will be fun.
I look forward to it. So, Alan, what I was going to ask is, if somebody is hearing this, or has thought about getting involved in this for a while, or local politics, what is this the process right now for a prospective ambassador or volunteer that wanted to get involved with you guys to either reach out or to get on board? What is that process, or what is your call to action for that?
Several ways. Go to the Wake site.
Hey, can you say that again?
I'm sorry, Alan. It cut out after you said go to the website.
Go to Wake.
You're good. You're back.
WakeGOP.org,
okay.
And you can leave your information there. You can call the office on the phone, the main line, leave a voicemail, or you can write to us. You can show up at the office when it's open. Right now, it's only part-time. I plan on having full-time operational volunteer support. That's what the executive director can do. He's going to make sure he has volunteers showing up. He shouldn't have just one volunteer. He should have two at all times to handle people that walk indoors. They walk in all the time. People walk in there all the time, and lots of times the door's closed. Well, we're not closing the doors anymore. I got to start finding my volunteers after what I saw the other day on day one, which was Friday. We have to be more responsive to the needs of the people that are our supporters, our volunteers. And that's what I want to do. But if you want to be a volunteer and you have a passion and yours is education, we're going to have a committee that works solely to try and fix what we want to do for school choice. If you want to work in community outreach with events, we will have a committee that does that. What I'm doing is I'm going to take the 13 on my slate, and the first chair, vice, and myself will oversee everything. But the other 11 are going to get their lanes. Some of them will be 2 of them to a lane, but they're each going to be carrying 2 to 3 responsibilities. As a leader, my job is not to do their job. I can't do it all. One man can't ever do this. It's going to take the whole Republican Party of Wake GOP to grow the numbers and help me find the money for fundraising. But if I put some of my leadership in lanes and they have these responsibilities, I'm going to delegate that responsibility to them. And I'm going to keep them on a pattern and a responsive timeline, so I'm getting progress updates. Because I want them to own that project or several projects. And that's why we're going to do it. And if they don't cut the mustard, then adios. They're not going to be around.
That's good. So you certainly have a lot of ambitions as chair and with this new leadership team, all of which I think are great, Alan. But as you face these new mountains and battles ahead, what are some of your biggest challenges, as well as your biggest needs, not just as a chair, but as a party in general? So, I mean, again, people that have an interest in this in any capacity, what are your needs that some people could help you fulfill in any role?
Well, I think that my vision and what they, 80% vote, that tells you they're going to trust me as a former leader and what they think is their future leader. I want to attack the passions. There's so many people that are upset about November 2020. We're going to need help in voter election integrity, whether that's writing letters to members of the General Assembly, to fighting these issues with regard to voter ID, and actually making calls to some of those senators, that North Carolina senators. Yeah. There's a lot of things to do to make sure. We need to be training the greeters at the elections. You having been a candidate, know. You'd go to some early voting sites, there was no Republican there. There was no leadership. There was no organization. No. There was a book.
And we were bouncing around because we didn't know where to go because there was no organization with us to say, hey, you have people here, hey, you need
I was
to go
setting it up. I was dealing with the former heads and everything, and it was just a real cluster,
Yeah, what was going on there, Eastern Lake, regional,
Oh, mine
GOP,
was fine. I had people at mine. I made sure if somebody wasn't there, I had it covered. Mine was okay. Alan, you saw me there. You saw me there a couple times. Yeah, I was there. I had your signs up front.
But I will tell you, training observers on the inside for election integrity to make sure that you are allowed the 6 feet while they're cataloging all the votes and stuff like that. Those are things that are critical. That means we're watching him, because I promise you the opposition, the Democrats, are doing the very same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't worry. If you don't know what the rules are there and you break them, somebody will tell you real quick. So.
How do you counter with the Biden? That's NCAE. If you ever looked at it, it was all sponsored. Every person on that red apple was a Democrat candidate that was endorsed by NCAE. Well, we have something called Carolina Teachers Alliance, CTA, that's going to counter that, because NCAE only represents 17% of the teachers in this state. They don't have a union. That's about as close as you get to a union.
But people don't know that. People don't know that.
Last time, that's right. But the last time I heard someone took a bite out of a red apple, they got banished from paradise, the Garden of Eden. Okay, so our job is to come up with a counter. Do you remember that pack that was sitting there with the blue sample ballots? And if you looked at it, they were handing it to the orange one, and it looked like it was a neutral ballot. It was only Democrats on there. So we have to come up with something to attack that in all our early voting sites. Those are reports that I saw, and I have many, many more when I was a candidate, that I have to get ready to counter. And then, you're a thinker.
Yeah, we lost
Yeah, it was an incoming call.
You're back.
When you are a strategic thinker, you have to get inside your decision cycle. If you're going to do X, then you have to counter with Y or Z.
So talking on strategy, Mr. Chairman, you were saying a moment ago, you were talking about strategies in early voting and in primary voting. We all know how crucial it is to turn out numbers in those races, because so many people who are registered and don't end up voting, in primaries or in early elections. So as chairman, what's your strategy or idea or plan to help bring out numbers when we hit these elections?
In here, but we got crushed.
Hang on, Alan. I'm sorry.
It went in and out again.
It went in and out. Can you back up there for a second?
In the 2020 election, the absentee ballot changed from 2 witnesses, notary, to do an absentee ballot absolutely crushed the Republican Party. And here's why. Republicans did not push people to go absentee ballot. For every 3 Republicans that asked for an absentee ballot, 10, almost 11 Democrats did.
Wow.
So we lost the race before we started early voting. We just didn't know it. We didn't know it. We all won. Most of us won on election day. Most of us there were even or won in early voting, but we had no way to overcome because our wins on those 2 events, early voting and election day, were nowhere near the margin that absentee balloting did. So what we have to do is change the belief among Republicans. You don't wait till election day, 3 November like last year. You have to get out there and we got to compete in the absentee ballot arena. We have to get people to show up for early voting. If that's what our law says, don't go by what the norm used to be. If these are the rules and they're changing, you have to adjust. And that's what we failed to do last year as Republicans.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, the more people you have turn out to vote, like Mr. Chairman's talking about, there's early voting numbers that he's referencing, and you have obviously, the more turnout, the more votes you have, but too, you can also better predict the more demographics.
Everybody was scared that was Republicans to vote by mail because Donald Trump was saying everybody's going to steal your vote pretty much if that happens. So most of the people didn't show up.
Yes, I think what Mr. Chairman's talking about, though, is that there's a lot of either fraud or inconsistencies that happen in the mail system on the Democratic side, just to clarify.
They're just outnumbered us by far.
Look at the state of Georgia. In 3 elections for early voting or absentee voting, they historically have a 2.3% failure or rejection rate on absentee ballots. 2.3%.
Now, when you say rejection rate, is that the Postal Service rejecting them, or is there
That's because didn't have the right witness. The person didn't.
You're saying, though, to clarify, those.
They were rejecting before 2020 2.3% of all the absentee ballots that were received at election headquarters.
Understood. Okay.
Last year, Georgia, the state, had a tenfold amount of absentee ballots. Tenfold. So let's say you had 500,000 absentee ballots average in the state of Georgia. I don't know what the number was. Now you tenfold that. 5 million absentee ballots. I'm trying to show you it's 10 times the amount. The error rate, rejection rate, instead of 2.3, which it should have been higher because of the larger number, was 0.3%.
No way.
That's a big difference.
Had you taken the number of absentee ballots that were used in the state of Georgia and applied the 2.3 historical number, President Trump would have won, Senator Burr would have won, and Georgia would have been red. Still would have made a difference for President Trump, but it would have given us control of the Senate.
Wow.
That's how serious this is.
Which would have made a difference in passing legislation over the next 4 years. I mean, that still would have been huge.
Man.
Wow. Okay, so this is good. I feel like as a voter, as a citizen, I have a much clearer understanding after going through this with you, as I hope our viewers will, of the vision of the Wake County GOP the next 2 years, kind of between now and 2024-ish. So this is good. Is there anything else that you want new voters, new Republicans, as well as your new constituents to hear and understand about the things that you view most important for that are facing the party and its voters right now?
Well, I guess the biggest thing I would say is we, Wake GOP, have always been an all-volunteer force. I'm going to be more business-like, professional organization in the back office. But I still need the lion's share of what we're going to get done is volunteers. So if you've been a volunteer in the past or you're considering being a volunteer and you're upset over 2020, I need your hands. I need your blood. I need your sweat. I need your tears. But I also need your money. Because if I'm going to do what I need to do, I'm going to need both to make a difference. We all have to do this together. My theme when I was a congressional candidate last year and my theme when we ran for this office to be chairman as Team Wake Strong. Wake Strong was my motto. The slogan, how goes. That's what we're trying to say. If you don't realize how powerful Wake County can be, then help me roll sleeves and make a difference. Because if we can turn this county purple, we will be bright red in 20, and we will put the Dems, the Democrats, on defense. So come support me, and let's make Wake stronger.
That's well put. Luke, do you have any other questions for the chairman while we have this fantastic opportunity?
Man, I'm just looking forward to see what you do for the party, and I know it's going to be great. I know you have the skills and everything that it takes to do it. The foresight, the 2020
What's
vision.
the next event or the fundraiser? Is Casino Night on the books yet?
We're trying to pick dates because we're going to just brainstorm them out there. We know we're looking to do probably that golf tournament in May. We're trying to do quarterly. We're going to probably do something like a candidate social where you get there's a lot of people out there thinking about running because they're mad about 2020. So what you do is you bring them in and ask former candidates. I'm sure we would invite you too, Will, to say, hey, what did you learn? What are your lessons and all that stuff? Because we've been in the trenches, so why not learn from the veterans that may not have prevailed, but they still have lessons learned, and talk about the impact on a person's family life or personal life. And then you move forward, and if they say, okay, I'm ready to sign up after even some of the horror stories, if you want to call it that, being a candidate, but they have to rely that Alan Swain as their chairman and Wake GOP will cover their backs. Then we'll start boot camp a couple of weeks later and start the first people running for early office. But I would tell anyone right now, our near-term target are the city and town council seats along with the mayoral. But there are other appointed seats where we have zero representation as Republicans, whether it's all either UNAs or all the Democrats. So what we want to do is make sure we are getting the message out. But this is the time now for a person who's thinking about a run in November 22 with potential primary candidates, even though you don't know what your District 16 looks like, Senate, or what House 34 is going to look like, because there's going to be a redistricting going on, one at the congressional level. But within Wake County, the belief is we're going to get two House members for the General Assembly, and maybe even one more Senate seat. They may not all be in Wake, but partially like 18 was up in the northeast side. But what I'm saying is if we do our blocking and tackling and grow our base, and we focus in on the precincts, and then we do our best to register and get them organized, then when the General Assembly shows up in the fall and tells us where the new districts are, it won't matter. We'll know which districts are the ones we can potentially pull off. Now, I still want to find candidates for every district, House, and Senate, but there's some that we think we can pull off. The reason why we pulled off our District House 37, she was running against an incumbent, but she was in an R3 district. She won by R3.
That's good. Mr. Chairman, real quick on that subject, I have a question. I know it's probably a very long list of all the different seats and the positions that you would need to fill, but as you were studying these districts real quick, just give us 2 or 3 districts that are an R+ district, or where you've looked into the stats and they look good, where you need somebody to fill the seat to run that is currently open or void, Can you give us examples of a couple of those, or people listening to this? Like I said, I'm sure it's a very long list, which is why I only asked for maybe two or so. But what's that? You broke up.
House 37.
House 37.
Aaron Parade.
We had one that was 0-0. It was 0-0-0. That's what we believed. That was House 35. But we didn't pull the UNAs over for Fred Von Cannon. But he was close enough that the absentee ballot sunk him. Same thing for Mills for School Board 6. She lost by less than 2%. Mark Capillero lost by several points. Now, he was in a D2, D3, but you should be able to convince people when you're that close. But the absentee ballots pretty significant. Yeah. He won.
I hated that for Mark. He was a great guy and deserved that win, too.
He won on election day. He just couldn't overcome that 3-11 ratio, Republicans to Democrats. The balloting. So if you don't think there's a chance that things went wrong, and that change from witness notary for an absentee ballot to one witness caused so much heartache and headache, and it was a General Assembly compensation by the Republicans because of COVID. We barely held on to the state by 1.3%. That's how close it was, because we got overwhelmed with absentee ballots. Had gotten away with the change they wanted to do, which would say you can sign as the voter and you can sign as a witness saying, "Hi, my name's Will Marsh, and I'm signing witness saying that Will Marsh signed this." Can you imagine the potential fraud that would have happened had that occurred? And they did that halfway through the absentee ballot. We would have lost the state had that gone through. I, along with the Speaker of the House, Mr. Moore, the Majority Leader of the Senate, and several voters that had already gone through the one witness absentee balloting, and myself as a federal candidate, we sued in the state courts and in the federal courts. The states would not even hear us, so we lost. Federal courts, they overturned that portion. They would not allow that to occur.
Wow. Well, I certainly feel good about you being in this seat, and I'm glad that y'all's team has won this election. What are ways that we can be of direct service to you, Mr. Chair?
I think the important thing you can do is help get the message out that there's new leadership at Wake GOP. They're looking for volunteers. I'm going to tell you to find your passion. If your passion is in voter election integrity, we'll take you as a volunteer. If you have a passion for the education lane, then that's what we want. If you want to help us with community minority outreach, I want to go out and be that face. I want to go to Indian American, Chinese American, Filipino American days, wherever they're having them, myself as the first vice chair. That sends a message right there that I consider them to be important enough to be a part of our team, and please come with us to our events. I want to invite them to our events. And then I'm going to take it to the Democrats. I'm going to go to their events, and I'm going to show up and try and speak. Hopefully they'll let me speak as the chairman. I have no problem with doing that. I happen to be, I never grew, I was a minority, but I'm half Asian. So I plan on going wherever I feel I can be introduced to or talk to people. I'm not afraid of anyone. Look, when I took my Apaches in the bison, yes, you have a little fear, okay? But
say that again. It broke up.
Fear was the last word we heard.
That, what I went through in my earlier career, that would be concerning to anyone about the potential loss of life. There's no fear for me to go into the Democrats' backyard and promote conservative values. Because if the blacks, if the Hispanics, if the Asians listen to my message, and they really listen, and they'll see that our values are more aligned as Republican conservatives than any Democrat that's running for office. But we have to reach out, and that's going to take money. That's going to be sponsoring events to make a difference. Our goal is to have multiple events every month, and we're now going to build that up. So we've said April is get your act together, because there's actually another convention coming up in April, and that's called District 2, which is the congressional seat I ran for. That convention's coming up in April, so there's a lot going on. So this gives us our months. If you may not believe it, when you take over as a commander in the field or in the military, and you're military too, Will, is you have to do a command inventory. Well, what we're going to do is an internal chairman audit, and we're going to assess all what we have and figure out. Right now it appears to be a lot of things are running fine, but what I'm concerned about is I want to protect all our data. So some of the things are a bit of a patchwork quilt, and what I want to do is clean it up where it's all under one umbrella, and that only people that are trusted will have access to some of the information. And then when I take the fight to the state GOP and have our voice as the largest county and the largest vote getter for the state, I can then, from a position of power, listen to me before I give them up our data. It's a two-way street, and right now it's a one-way street. We have to give up our stuff, and they're not giving a lot of things in return.
Yeah, that's very true and very well put. So, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for sharing all of this. Luke, do you have any further questions?
That's it for me, man.
I know we only...
Actually, I would like to speak to you more about getting involved on the education part. Probably tomorrow, if that works for you. I know you're really booked and busy today.
I know you're working with Education First already, Will, with the things you guys are doing, the things you're going to try and do on the night. I would help promote CTA, because that's going to be our counter to NCAE. The price, they have more benefits than NCAE, and their price to join as a teacher is half the price. There's a lot of benefits, but you don't have to be a teacher or a retired teacher to support CTA. You can be an associate member and still get some benefits for $25 a year. I mean, that's a pretty good little setup. So their website, I wish I had that website right now in my head, but if you punch in Carolina Teachers Alliance, it's a .org, and it just went active this late last week. It looks very nice, very professionally done, but we have to get the message out on our conservative values, whether that's by voice, whether it's social media, and we're looking for talented IT people that know how to develop apps and also know how to respond in a moment's notice to a lot of the social media stuff that's going on. You may want to call it, it's almost being a conservative cyber warrior to get the message out. You can't be negative because they're going to be negative, and then you'll never end your battle with them. You just have to take the high ground in every instance. And see, my job as the chairman is I plan, and I have always been fair and impartial. I'm not any candidate different from the other one. If you two were running for the same office, you'd both get the same advice from me. I might wink at one of you more than the other. I wouldn't do that. I'm just kidding. Fair and impartial is what it's all about. If you can't help get the message out, because if I can't be fair and impartial with all the organizations within Wake GOP, how can I expect the media, the TV stations, how can I fight for their partiality or their lack of impartiality to give me a chance to speak on behalf of conservatives in the Republican Party? So you got to fix it internally before you can fix it externally. Now you can do both at the same time, but you got to stand on your principles and what you and make sure that people trust your vision and what you're going to do. There are people that will undermine us, and we don't know if they're. Then you ask yourself, are they a rhino or what? You don't know, but you have to first give them their chance to prove their worth. But then when they let you down, then they probably won't get a second chance with Alan Swain.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, very well put. I have a lot of confidence with you in the driver's seat, Mr. Chairman. I am looking forward to some of these events and gatherings and fundraisers that y'all will have this upcoming year, and look forward to attending. Please let us know, and so we can share them on our social media pages, because we would love to put that word out there as well. So,
remember, take over as a leader, and you can think of the people who are your leaders in the military. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So you better like you did.
Heard that all the time.
But it's fair. Because I'm telling you, Democrats are pessimists.
Cut out that.
Sorry. The last thing we heard again, Mr. Chairman, was pessimist.
Okay.
We thought you dropped the mic and walked out, but no, I think you were still talking.
Well, Democrats are pessimists.
Yes.
Republicans are optimists. And here's why. Just look at what's going on up in Washington, D.C. now. Everything's, the sky's falling, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. Well, see, a Democrat, as a pessimist, sees difficulty in every opportunity. But if this Republican sees opportunity in every difficulty. And I have difficulty ahead of me running Wake GOP, but I'm going to seize the opportunity and make a difference.
Very good. Well, we are fired up about it. Y'all, you certainly have our support. I know we only promised you for this would be an hour slot tonight, and we're about to hit that. So we're going to let you go so we can end on good terms. But thank you so much for doing this tonight. And we're grateful for it. We were excited about it. I was thrilled when Luke told me that you were willing to do this. And so if there's anything that we can do to help you fulfill marching orders, let us know.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the opportunity. I'll be looking forward to seeing how this ends up. We do a little splicing here and there because of some of the audio problems. But I will tell you, we have some initiatives with regard to fundraising, and I won't give you the whole details because we're trying to figure out how to roll it out. But it's going to be called the Wake Strong 10K Founding Club.
Okay.
And everyone's, Carl Swain, you're going to make me run a 10K? I said, no, maybe someday we will. That's $10,000.
Yeah. Make it $10,000.
I was going to say, $10,000 would be a lot more useful than running a 10K. Yeah.
10,000 donors. And what I'm going to do is find 10,000 like-minded conservative Republicans that want to commit. In most cases, I'm going to, and when you sign to be a donor, a founder of this 10K club, you're going to donate something for 24 months. And I'm going to ask everyone for a certain amount of money. And if you meet that, that means you're so busy you can't show up. And you're just going to give your money up for the cause. Others are going to ask, can I do the hybrid, which is some money and volunteer hours? And if I don't use your volunteer hours this month because we don't have a major event, then I'm going to bank it, but you owe it to me next month. But my goal is from 1 April to 1 April 2021 to March 2023, that's the 2 years of my term, that you're going to commit to support me and my vision. And with that money, we're going to go find our own permanent building. We're going to support all the candidates that run on our platform. Mind you, our platform. If the guy has a record and he's an incumbent and they're not following Republican conservative principles, then they're not going to get our support financially or endorsement.
Good.
So that's my vision. So I'll end it like I say. Please help me make Wake stronger. Wake strong now. Wake strong first. Wake strong forever. Thank you, guys.
I like that. Just out of curiosity, we see your Wake Strong shirt there on the TV. Is that what it says below the North Carolina flag?
It says, how goes Wake goes the state.
Oh, okay. Okay, I couldn't quite tell there, but I liked it. I just wanted to point that out. So
I'm going to get some of these for all my senior leadership.
Good. Well, we like that. Thank you so much for this, Mr. Chairman. And again, just to clarify, the website that you said, it was wakegop.org?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, you all have heard it here on The Way We See It with Will and Luke. Follow us on social media. Follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.